Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3558. Today's date is August 27, 2025. It's been almost like night at 9:48 p.m. All right, let's just directly jump into the question. Let's go. All right. Question is: growing up, my family taught me that money is okay. Money is what? Okay, what exactly is this question? This question is kind of like a somebody tell us about that ki what is exactly is let me be comfortable. Let's just pause for a while. Wait, how do I supposed to pause it? Okay, all right. Okay, right now I just kind of like a somebody took off my pant. Okay, right now I feel really good. Okay, let me tell you what is actually my perspective. Okay, I'm actually at the rooftop. Okay, I am actually wearing just underwear and t-shirt, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. Because I'm actually wearing this kind of like a simply polyester pant and things like that, which kind of like a feels little bit of and full pant, not just halfway full pant. So it's bit little bit of uncomfortable. So that's why I just okay. This is the first time I'm kind of like I'm recording Artifact episode by like I'm wearing kind of like I just wear an underwear and then after that there is nothing really at all. So it's feel little bit of weird. Okay, and also I'm kind of like at the rooftop. By the way, rooftop is kind of like a bit really dark, so probably no one actually seen me. So no one will gonna see me. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what is exactly the point? What is exactly the concept? Concept is that question is that ki when you are growing up, what is exactly your thoughts regarding about money? What is actually the your family taught us regarding about money and stuff like that? Okay. Obviously I'm actually came from middle class family. Okay, yeah. um yeah, middle class family. My families are always kind of like a simply problem regarding about money. Okay, yeah. And yeah, always be like basically this thing having less amount of money is kind of like a something that key you are gonna make sure that you have to save money and things and that. Okay, but I kind of like I'm gonna tell you little bit about perspective regarding about money. Okay, yeah. Okay, so basically is this thing when you are grown up. Okay, yeah. And whatever the relation is actually taught you regarding about your family, regarding about you and the money, it's kind of like an impact in your life, and it will kind of like a resonate till the end of your life. What is exactly what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, I'm trying to tell you is this thing. Imagine if you born in kind of like a something very poor family. Okay, yeah. And you always been struggle, your family's always been struggle regarding about money and stuff like that. Okay, so when you grown up you realize that the importance of the money is very essential. Like basically all the problem that you're gonna solve with the money. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, your life is always kind of like a, always kind of like a try to earn money as more as possible as you can, and that's the goal. Okay, so it is kind of like a thing. So okay, like basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, that key the person who actually born in this kind of like a some poor class family, he can do anything for money, because he always realized that the importance of the money and things and that. Anything means like that, I'm not saying anything means like that he can do anything like a illegal thing. No, like he could understand what is actually legal and not good. But anything means like that he was not really kind of like a thinking about that key business. He was not really thinking about that key kind of like any risk or things or that. No, the person who actually born in kind of like a poor class, they always have mindset to kind of like a simply be little bit something, earn more than whatever we have. Means what? Like means like basically is this thing, the transition from poor class family to middle class family is almost 90%, but the transition from poor class family to higher class family is almost 10% or more or less than that. Why is this thing? is because of that the mindset that we created when we born. The people who actually born in kind of like a lower class family, they always realize that importance of the money, and they don't want to earn so much amount of money because they know that when they earn so much amount of money, their soul will be corrupt. Like basically they think that the people who are kind of like somebody earns so much amount of money, those people are really asshole or harami or things like that. And you actually seen it. Okay, yeah, like your family always kind of like say that ye amir log to kuch bhi kar lete hai, they kind of like do anything at all. Like basically their perspective regarding about that the people who are kind of like a rich person, all the people are rich people are kind of like asshole or harami or kind of like a some motherfucker or things like that. Okay, so this kind of like a mentality, I also born with this thing. Like basically my parents are also kind of like taught me this thing that try not to achieve something very big thing. No, just earn just little bit better, just little bit. Like basically just get a job and just stick with your job for the rest of the lifetime. And that is kind of like a some mentality. Not only me, but every person. I'm kind of like try to tell you regarding about Indian point of perspective. I'm not really sure about the US and Europe, what is actually their thought process regarding about money. But I am actually belong to the India, and I'm kind of like simply try to tell you from Indian point of perspective. Every parents in Indian family, same story. Same story. Yeah, there is nothing really at all. So basically it impact on the way that we think, it impact on way that we do, it impact on the kind of like somebody what is actually relationship with our money and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. Have you ever kind of like somebody been such a thing? Like why does kind of like poor people things like that? Like why does poor people always thinks like okay, like we actually talk about the poor people. Now let's talk about the rich people. Okay, now let's talk about the rich people. Okay. So basically, if you're born in rich family, okay, yeah, so you always have luxury for everything. You are never really kind of like a something that you can't afford. No, you can afford everything. You have car, you have big house, you have everything. Okay, yeah. So the people who actually born in kind of like some rich class people, okay, yeah, they what is actually they kind of like somebody live for? They actually live for kind of like somebody value. What is actually value? Value means like that ki what kind of like somebody stuff that we do that our value should supposed to be increased. What is exactly value? A value means like that ki let's just say doing a job is value. No, like basically this thing you like doing a job, it kind of like a some value in your life. Okay, yeah. But when you establish a business, that means you are creating value in community. Okay, your value, you are creating value in community. What is exactly value? A value means like that a kind of like a somebody opportunity to grow or kind of like a things or that. When you do a job, you are kind of like a giving your value, or means you are kind of like a giving your opportunity to grow yourself, only yourself when you are doing a job. But when you establish a business, that means you are kind of like a creating opportunity for more and more people to grow. Not only those people grow, as well as company, as well as surrounding people will also grow. Okay, so basically is this thing, the people who actually born in rich class family, they always have kind of like a somebody hunger for value. How do we supposed to improve our value and things like that. So they will not gonna do a job like they always know that doing a job is nothing really at all. So they are actually be more focused about how do supposed to be increase our value. The value should supposed to be increased by the credibility, skills and talent and things like that. So the people who are born in rich family, they are be more focused on how they should supposed to be improving every possible perspective. Okay, yeah, like basically they went to business management studies, they went to kind of like a study this, they kind of like a learn this, they learn that, they went to multiple classes and things and that. Okay, yeah, which is kind of like a giving them advantage. So that's why in our Indian society we actually think that the people who are actually born in rich people, they actually control most of the things, because obviously they taught this thing since the beginning, since they born. But the people who actually born in kind of like a poor class family, they always kind of like a lean towards kind of like a just do little bit better, just kind of like a create the value by yourself and things like that. Okay, so that's why kind of like somebody rich people always get richer, because the value that they are getting since the beginning, since they born, is to kind of like a creating value for other people or creating value for the community or things or that and that. Okay, yeah, the people who actually born in kind of like a simply the lower class family or lower class people, they then this like a creating value for ourselves first. Okay, so this is what it is. Okay, so that's why kind of like a somebody the transition between the people um from kind of like a poor to middle class, which is almost like a 90%. Okay, only 10% or maybe less than 10% would be kind of like a went to the poor to higher or rich people. But basically, if I'm kind of like a try to talk about the rich people class, they have almost like a 95% of that is higher people, like the people who actually born in kind of like a higher class society, rich class society. They are kind of like a lean towards even more rich, means like their transition from rich to even more richer. 90%, 90 90%, 10% would be kind of like a went into the poverty, went into the kind of like a simply the poor. Okay, they will not go to the middle class, maybe they will into the middle class, or they went to the kind of like a simply poor. But also the transition is also less. Okay, maybe kind of like a 95% of rich people became even more richer, and the 5%, like of the who are those 5%, the 5% of the people means like that they don't really care about all those things. They are kind of like simply just enjoy the today's life and things like that. Then they are destroy their life, and they will become kind of like a simply like a middle class to kind of like a lower and things like that. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like something the mentality that is actually happened. Okay, also I'm trying to tell you regarding about the kind of like some Indian point of perspective. Okay, yeah. Now there is a one question that I'm kind of like always arise, that ki why middle class family or kind of like a lower middle class family or kind of like a low class family, they always kind of like a consider that ki rich people is always evil. Why does people think that way? Why does kind of like those people are always think like that way? uh okay, basically is this thing na ki um our thought process is actually comes from the experience. Okay, one thing. And our thought process is also comes from the belief, and our thought process is also came from the history. Or history means like that. Okay, our thought process actually come from the influence. Okay, yeah. Like basically our thought process are kind of like a in impact by the multiple things. Experience first, then believe, then what is actually what I'm trying to tell you, influence. Okay, yeah, these are kind of like three ways that our thought process are kind of like a something change. Okay, yeah. Now I'm trying to tell you a little bit history regarding about what does people is actually living. Also I'm actually telling the history regarding about Indian point of perspective. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, when my country, when India is became independent, things are very kind of like a something fragile here. Fragile means like that ki like there is no kind of like a something the system or things or that. Like we have system, we have constitution, we have things, but the problem is that the population of India is so much that our system is kind of like a take so much time to implement on every citizen of the India. Okay, which is not gonna possible. Okay, yeah. Right now it is possible because right now we are kind of like a simply improve our constitution, improve our skills and things and that. But I'm trying to talk about kind of like a simply early independence, like basically when they got the independence. So basically at that period of time things might be little bit different. Okay, yeah. At that time most of the kind of like a people in India are kind of like a somebody belongs to the poor class family. Okay, yeah. Another thing is that ki our belief, like a why those believe, like why does kind of like a kind of like a somebody the poor class people always thinks that ki rich people are always evil. Why this kind of like a thought process came from, I'm trying to tell this expression, why I'm trying to tell this why this thing actually happened. So it actually happened because of that ki most of the people in India was kind of like a poor. Okay, yeah. And early independence things might be even more crazier because at that period of time there is a kind of like a something person who is kind of like a higher, like basically most of the population are farmer. Okay, yeah. Then um, basically is this thing about the farmer, like basically is what is actually happened, that he, whatever the farmer, also I'm trying to tell you regarding about the information that I know. So that means the possibility of the information is might not right or might not correct. I'm trying to tell you the kind of like only average what exactly is this thing. I'm try to express this possible way as good as possible. Okay. So what exactly happened, that at that time farmer can't sell the product, or a farmer can't their kind of like somebody sell their kind of like a goods that they are actually creating in their farmland. They are not selling those things with the approval of kind of like somebody the like basically thanedar, havaldar, I don't know what is actually that particular person. He's kind of like somebody above that. Okay, yeah. So basically what is actually happened, that he the farmer who whatever they are kind of like a somebody that making in the farmland, they are kind of like a selling to this I'm not really sure what is actually that thanedar, no, khawaldar, no, like basically a party law might be kind of like a kind of like somebody higher authority person, which kind of like somebody kind of like somebody control the kind of like somebody the consumer and kind of like somebody farmer, like basically it's kind of like somebody middleman, but I don't know what exactly what, I'm not really sure about this thing. Okay, yeah. Maybe it's just saying that ki, those people like a farmer are kind of like a selling their product to the kind of like a, that particular person, let's just say middleman person. Okay, yeah, that middleman person is kind of like a sell that product to the consumer person. Okay, yeah, and whatever the amount of money that kind of like somebody earn, he actually gave the money to the farmer and take little bit of commission. Okay, yeah, so this is what kind of like a system that we have. Now the problem is that basically the farmer is actually kind of like a somebody selling their product in kind of like a fixed rate. Okay, yeah, but that particular middleman person is actually selling this product which actually came from the farmer kind of like a selling even more. Okay, so basically the profit that profit that middleman is actually creating is actually much more than farmer. Example, let's just say tomato. Okay, so basically is this thing, 1 kilo tomato is actually sell to that particular middleman, let's just say 10 rupees per kilo. Okay, yeah, but that middleman is actually selling that tomato, 1 kilo of tomato, selling to the consumer maybe 30 or maybe 40 kilo rupees of tomato. Okay, yeah, so probably that middleman is actually kind of like a taking almost like a 10 to 20 or maybe like basically 200 or 300% profit that he is actually getting. Okay, that middleman. So basically when that middleman is actually getting 300 and 400, like a 200 and 300% of profit on the same product, that means that particular person, the middleman person, became so much rich. Yeah, like become very rich. Okay, yeah. Now basically what is actually happened, that he, when that particular person became so much rich, he became even more greedy. Okay, because as I mentioned, at the early independence, there is no kind of like a kind of control regarding about all this financial thing and stuff like that. So basically the people who are kind of like those middleman person is kind of like somebody wanted to be even more greedy. So what does they do, they are kind of like a somebody, not only they are taking the product, but sometimes kind of like a somebody farmer really required a kind of like a somebody some certain amount of money. Let's just say that ki, the farmer has a daughter and he wanted to kind of like do the marry, like basically he wants that ki wedding should supposed to be happen, but he doesn't really have that much amount of money. So what exactly happened, that ki farmer went to that middleman, and that middleman is kind of like somebody say this thing, okay, don't worry, give me your land, like a basically give me like a basically is this thing udhar. What is actually meaning for udhar, like rent. Okay, like basically rent your kind of like a land to me for at least like a till the money that you return. Means like that ki basically is this thing that ki the farmer is actually kind of like a giving the land, not entirely giving, kind of like a somebody borrow. Yeah, like a basically is this thing, like a not borrow, is a what is actually word for girvi. Okay, yeah, like I'm not really sure. Let me kind of like a somebody जमीन गिरवी रखना, RAKH यानी in English, Mortgage. Okay, yeah, mortgage. Yeah, mortgage is a kind of like a some really good word. Okay, yeah. So people are mostly kind of like a mortgage their land to that middleman. Okay, yeah. And in returns, that middleman is actually giving the money that required for wedding and things like that. So basically, is this thing that key? Let me tell you what is actually the kind of like a transaction happened at that time. The farmer is kind of like a somebody illiterate, like they don't really understand writing and they don't really understand the reading. No, nothing really at all. Only the middleman could kind of like a read and write and this is thing. Because of that, at that time, education called as a kind of like a luxury. Okay, means like that the people who are kind of like a try to educate, that means those people are kind of like considered to be a very elite society or person or things like that. Okay, means education is kind of like a simply like a yeah like a, yeah, it is kind of like education is not really kind of like a simply that key. At that time education was yeah. So what exactly happened that key, farmer is kind of like a simply mortgage their land to that middleman and kind of like a gave some sort of amount of money. Okay, yeah. Now what exactly happened that he that middleman is not only kind of like a simply give some sort of amount of money, he also kind of like a apply interest rate too. Okay, yeah, very high interest rate. Okay, so what is actually interest rate? Interest rate means like that ki um let's just say that ki like basically I mortgage my house to you. Okay, yeah. And let's just say my house of the price is almost like a 10 lakh rupees. Okay, yeah, in today's point. After a 10 year, I kind of like a need my house back. So basically I have to give 10 lakh rupees to him and then I will kind of like bring my house, right? Because 10 year ago I kind of like somebody he gave me 10 lakh rupees. So yeah, so basically I have to give 10 lakh rupees. No, that is not the thing. Okay, yeah, because after the 10 year the prices of the house is also increased. So you have to pay maybe almost like a 15 lakh or maybe 16 lakh. Okay, then you get your house. Do you understand? So basically the price of the house is 10 lakh rupees and rest of the kind of like a simply increase amount, that is called interest. Okay, yeah, that interest is always increase yearly up to almost like a 5 to 6%, probably, I'm not really sure, but yeah, this is what it is. Okay, yeah. So what is actually happened that he the interest rate, like basically no one at that time the bank is actually control the interest rate like a 5 to 6 7%. Okay, I'm not really sure, but these are the percentage. But at that time the middleman could kind of like simply control the interest rate. Means like that the middleman says that okay, you want money. Okay, yeah, give me your land, like a mortgage the land, mortgage your kind of like a land towards me. I will give you the entire money for wedding for almost like a 20% interest rate. 20% interest rate, which is kind of, and he's control everything, like basically middleman controls everything because the farmer are not really understand, farmer don't really kind of like some things and that. Okay, so basically what has actually happened that he applied 20% interest rate per year. Okay, yeah. So basically if he take the loan from the middleman, let's just say 10 lakh rupees. Okay, yeah. So basically if he wanted to kind of like return that money, so how much money that he should supposed to be returned, like basically 10 lakh plus 20, that means probably 12 lakh rupees. Okay, yeah. So that farmer should supposed to pay 12 lakh rupees. Okay, yeah, on year. If that particular farmer didn't really paid that 12 lakh rupees, then he have to be pay next year how much? 24 24 lakh rupees. I'm not really kind of like a, I'm not really understand regarding about the calculation things like that, but next year he have to pay 24 lakh rupees. And if the next year he didn't really paid, then probably it went to almost like a 36 lakh rupees. Then another year is a 48 lakh rupees. Then another year 50 lakh rupees. So this is what kind of like somebody mortgage is kind of like somebody happen. So basically is this thing that farmer is kind of like a paying so much amount of money about this land, and he was kind of like a saying, no, you haven't really paid the entire bill, you just kind of like a paid just the interest rate. Like a basically like a basically you don't really pay the kind of like a somebody the value, the interest rate still remaining. So this is what kind of like a something the middleman is kind of like a doing something very toxic thing to the farmer and things like that. And this is kind of like story for all over the India. Okay, yeah. And because of this thing, then when that farmer is not able to kind of like a something like they're not able to kind of like a pay the mortgage and things like that, then the farmer has only one choice. What is that choice? You have to sell the land to him. Yeah, you have to sell the entire land to him, and that's it. Okay, this is the only one choice. So basically then farmer doesn't really have any choice, and they just sell the kind of like a something the entire farmer, the entire the farmland. Okay, yeah. And besides that, he will not gonna get anything, like basically her everything loan will everything cover. And because of his sell the entire land, so that middleman kind of like a give them little bit amount of money, just a little bit, maybe almost like 1 lakh or 2 lakh rupees, just take the money and just forget the land, and that's it. So when this thing happened, it was kind of like a very cruel. Like basically, the farmer doesn't really have any kind of like assembly opportunity to things and that and that. Also, at that time, farmer is not literate. Farmer doesn't really understand what is actually the interest rate. Farmer doesn't really understand what is actually value of the money. They just don't know nothing really about that. So this is actually happened all over in India, and basically at that time almost like a 90% of the population was kind of like a farmer or kind of like associated with the farmer. So it impact a lot. And basically at that time they actually think that the people who are kind of like a somebody very rich people, they are kind of like a somebody very not good person, really not, because they are kind of like a always kind of like a somebody the stealing and things and that and that. This thought process, this kind of like a somebody is kind of like a went into the generation after generation. And that's why most of the kind of like a something the farmer, or sorry, most of the kind of like a poor people are kind of like a comes from that family na. And because their father, their grandfather kind of like a tell their story that this happened, this happened, this happened. So that's why the rich people, sorry, that's why the poor people always thinks that rich people are kind of like a evil and things like that. Okay, yeah. But this is not the only reason. There is also another reason too. Like basically is this thing that um, um, we are humans, okay, yeah, and we are social animal. We are calculate success regarding about what we see. Like basically, he has how much big house it is, how much big car is it, how much money that he has. Okay, yeah. So basically, we human actually calculate success regarding about visually that what we could see, right? Yeah. And basically that means the person who doesn't really have that, that means that particular person doesn't is not succeed, right? Yeah. So when this thing is kind of like a somebody happened, when the rich people is kind of like a somebody having big house, car and things like that, then the poor people or kind of like a person who doesn't really have that thing, that particular person is wanted to kind of like a somebody try to away from that particular person. Okay, yeah, because he understand that, yeah, this person is kind of like somebody rich, and right now we shouldn't supposed to be a friend with those person. Why? Because he is rich and things or that, and probably he might be kind of like somebody evil and things and that. So yeah. So because of all those things, that's why most of the kind of like somebody poor people in India, they are kind of like consider that rich people are always evil. Okay, yeah. But and not just kind of like assembly, the kind of like assembly the farmer is actually think that way. At that time politicians also think like that way. So that's why most of the politicians are kind of like taking the license raj. License raj is a kind of like assembly very cruel term. Okay, let me tell you something regarding about license raj. License raj means like that if the person is wanting to do business in India, he has to kind of like go through multiple stages of license, like so many, like a land acquisition license, then like there are so many taxation file, license files, everything. You just have to go there, like basically thousands of kind of like a signature really required to kind of like establish a kind of like somebody just a power plant or kind of like a manufacturing plant. It takes so much, literally so much. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is what kind of like something happened. Okay, yeah. And then there is a corruption and things and that, who god knows what could happen. So that's why kind of like most of the kind of like poor people are kind of like always consider that rich people are always evil and things like that. Okay, yeah. But what is actually your opinion? Do you really think that rich people are evil? I am not think like that. Okay, yeah. Right now the world is actually changed a lot. Okay, yeah. Like basically I'm talking about in 2025, and things are here are kind of like a very different. Okay, yeah. means like that ki now we understand the value of what exactly rich people can do. Okay, yeah, they are kind of like a creating wealth not for them but as also for the community, for everything and things like that. So basically is this thing, the people who are considered to be that rich right now, they are kind of like considered as a hero. Elon Musk, hero. There are so many things like basically, and not only they are just a hero, they are actually a hero. Like they are kind of like a, let's just say Ratan Tata. Ratan Tata is a kind of like one of the richest person, but for most of the people, they are considered to be a really hero because the way that he did the way that every rich person did. Like I'm not saying that every rich person is kind of like a somebody really good. No, some of the rich person is like a really asshole, like a Vijay Mallya or a Nirav Modi. These are kind of like a people's are scamster and things and that. I don't know. Like I'm not kind of like a giving any judgment, but these are all those people are also exist too. But not all the rich people are kind of like that. Some of the rich people are also really good. They also established that ki money is kind of like a simply utilized for creating wealth, not only wealth but value too. Okay, so this is what it is. Okay, but if I'm trying to tell you that ki am I grown up with this kind of like a, what is kind of like a, somebody my family taught me regarding about money, regarding about this and that. My family taught me that ki money is one of the really essential factor in your life, really essential. Okay, yeah, my family taught me that ki all the problem in your life can be solved by money, all the problem. Okay, yeah, my family taught me that ki do not hope or do not kind of like a try to become something really much bigger person. No, just earn just little bit amount of money and survive for today, that's it. Okay, yeah, my parents or my kind of like a family taught me regarding about saving money. Okay, yeah, okay, regarding about the money that we should supposed to be saved, which will kind of like a something helpful for future, kind of like a something things happen, maybe something accident or things or that, so it will gonna really help us. So regarding about all the things that my family or my family taught me, is it good? Well, most of the good. Okay, yeah, like basically first of all is that ki my family taught me regarding about saving money, which is very essential because like basically in today's world saving money is also really essential. Okay, right now I'm kind of like a saving money in SIP, FD or things or that or that. Okay, yeah, which is somewhat something really essential, as well as I also investing money on gold, okay, bonds and things and that, okay, which are kind of like a new form of saving, which is really good because in the end it will kind of like a simply grow your money. One thing, another thing is that my kind of like a family taught me regarding about do not kind of like a somebody try to become rich person. Yeah, this my family taught me. Okay, yeah, and I am kind of like a somebody completely against with this thing because I think that ki when you become rich you actually solve the problem, not only your problem but as well as you could solve the problem of others too. Okay, yeah, with the every possible way and things like that. So this is kind of like a some things that I'm not really convinced with those point. uh, Another thing is that ki uh, saving then kind of like a somebody people are kind of like a evil and things like that. Another thing is that ki okay, um don't go for kind of like some bigger thing, just do the whatever things that like basically it's a kind of like all the things that parents is kind of like always things that ki my kids should supposed to be became a doctor or engineer, that's it. Like basically if you ask any parents that what they should supposed to be expect from their child, they actually mention that ki my child should supposed to be get doctor, should supposed to be get lawyer or should supposed to be get engineer and things like that. Okay, yeah, but right now things might be changed, but basically when I was kind of like a somebody at the teenager, this is my kind of like a parents thought process. Right now parents are kind of like a somebody bit evolved, they are kind of like understand that ki life is not meant to be just all those this profession. There are so many profession are exist in the world that could be something much better, as well as you could kind of like do your creative stuff too, create your value and things like that, like improve your skills. Okay, yeah, but still these are kind of like my thought process when I was kind of like growing up. My parents thinks that ki you have to become doctor, engineer and things like that. Okay, yeah, so these are kind of like a stuff, okay, that my parents are taught me. Some of them good, some of them not good, but these are kind of like a thought process are meant to be happen something good, meant to be happen something that ki meant to be happen something that ki um that ki like basically just like you just do, okay, you just kind of like a thing is that ki all the kind of like a something the thoughts and assumption regarding about money are meant to be protect their child, okay, regarding about all the kind of like a fucked up thing will gonna happen in the future. So regarding about their kind of like a somebody thought process and things regarding about money is kind of like a, it might kind of like a things that it is outdated, but somehow it is not, somehow it's kind of like a somebody giving little bit of lesson regarding about every possible scenario things and that like basically I still like consider myself that ki I am not really kind of like a financially very much kind of like a something inform or things like that, because the new generation could come with a very different stage, okay, maybe they thinks that ki investing might be something really good or kind of like a taking risk or things like that. Yeah, taking risk, like basically my parents are also kind of like a thing that do not take risk, which is yeah, do not take risk, okay, yeah. This is kind of like my parents also taught me. So these are kind of like some lessons that I learn, which is somewhat something, it's meant to be kind of like a protect, it's meant to be grow, it's meant to be, yeah, right. So this is what my family taught me regarding about money. All right, this is it, you should supposed to be in here, and thank you.